know, I love these woods. These woods provide me with a place to live in peace and quiet, provide me with lumber to build my cabin, firewood to keep warm, income, food, game. So the health of the woods is very important to me. And that's what I want to talk about today in this video. I want to talk about the current state of our forest. I also want to talk a little bit about forest management. And finally, I want to talk about what I think is the biggest threat that's facing our forest today, and it's a bad one. And not only does that, of course, affect our forests, it's going to affect our wildlife, and ultimately it will affect us. So stay tuned for that. One more thing before we get into it, guys. If you love our forests and you love wildlife, if you don't mind, could you smash that thumbs up button for me? And I would definitely appreciate it. Appreciate that kind of support. If you don't love our forests and don't love wildlife, go ahead and smash the thumbs down button. But then again, why are you watching the video, right? Anyways, I definitely would appreciate your support. I would love to see this video hit 1,000 likes. Only takes a second. So go ahead and smash that thumbs up for me. All right, now let's get into it. All right, so first I want to address something. I've been watching some videos from the boss of the swamp lately. You guys all know who the boss is, I hope. Anyways, he has a great channel and I watch it. And last couple of videos, he's been talking about something that he's seeing in his woods. He's seeing a lot of foam. And he's saying that it's coming down in the rain and so on. Now, a lot of people have asked me what I think about that. And the only thing I can say is I'm not really that far from the boss geographically. We share the same neck of the woods, if you will. I don't know what he's seeing. I mean, I've seen foam from trees. It's a natural occurrence. Some people call it foam flux. And it does happen. He says it's not that. He says it's something else. All I can say is I don't see it here. I haven't seen it here. So I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm just saying I haven't seen it here. There's a lot of people are asking me what I think about that. And honestly, I don't know what to think about it. I can't comment one way or the other because I don't see it here. So now that that's out of the way, when I was a young man, while still a teenager, one summer I took a course in civiculture. It was a great summer, had a great time in the woods and learned a lot too. One of the things we were looking at was aerial photos of the forest. It was obviously, this was before Google Maps. And we were looking at aerial photos of the forest, and you could see the top of the forest was all, brown and dying. All the canopy was not in good shape. And that was from a little thing called acid rain. If anybody remembers that, we don't hear much about acid rain anymore, but at one time it was a real problem. And fortunately, the government clamped down, and in the late 80s and early 90s, they did bring in a lot of regulations that stopped a lot of factories from spewing the pollution into the environment, into the atmosphere, which was causing all that acid rain. And it was, something visible that you could see that was definitely affecting our forest. Fortunately, that now that's no longer the case. And now when I look at the canopy of the forest, using Google Maps, I just see a beautiful green forest, and that's the way it should be. And I don't see any signs here on my property of any, tops of trees being dead or dying from acid rain. So that's a problem that's been solved. All right, let's talk logging and forest management. Okay, there's a lot of people who think that if you cut a single tree down, it's the end of the world and it's going to ruin the forest. I don't believe that for a second. I think that if you log in a sustainable manner, that your woodlot should last forever. I mean, wood is a renewable resource, and the key word there is resource. We need wood, and if you do it responsibly, there's no reason to ever really run out of wood because of logging. Now, personally, these are my own personal opinions. I'm not a fan of clear-cut logging or anything like that. And for me personally, I like to do low-impact logging. I'm just one man. I use an ATV, sometimes a tractor, and a chainsaw. And I'm not hurting the forest at all. As a matter of fact, I'm very keen on forest management. Now, I have my entire woodlot laid out, mapped out. I know where all the hardwood stands are. I know the softwood stands. I know the mixed stands. I know the volume of wood. I know how much I can sustainably cut every year, and I know the regrowth rate roughly. So by my calculations, based on my plan, in 20 years, Canadians, always shooting something. So based on my calculations, in 20 years, I will have more wood here on my property than I do today, even though I continuously log it. Every year I take, but there will still be more in 20 years. And that's proper forest management. Another thing is, you know, the woods are resilient. The great thing is about this renewable resource, trees grow back, you know, and this property here has been cut many, many times since the 1800s. And believe me, it was cut in a time when nobody thought or cared anything about forest management. Didn't matter. And but the forest today is still here. The wood is, there's tons of mature timber here. Case in point here, right behind me is this great big northern red oak. And there's plenty of mature wood here. As a matter of fact, let's just go take a little look around. I'll show you some of the nice wood I have here on my woodlot. So this is a nice hardwood stand here, all mature, like this big yellow birch. A nice example of maple, more maple, birch. Maples, maple, birch, it's actually kind of hard to see in the summertime because of all the undergrowth and all the foliage. It's really hard to see through the woods, but there's plenty of hardwood here. This here is a real beautiful hardwood stand. And now we're in a softwood stand. I got some really nice spruce here. And some nice pine. There's another example of a beautiful pine tree. So yeah, plenty of softwood for building material and plenty of hardwood. No shortage. So even though it's been logged many times, it grows back. Okay, so what do I think is the biggest threat to our forest today? Invasive insects. Invasive insects are here and they are wreaking havoc on our forests. I'm standing right now in a stand of beech trees on my property. And you can see on the beech tree here behind me, this is known as beech bark disease. It's caused by an invasive insect. It basically showed up in Nova Scotia in about 1920 and has slowly moved south and east. and it has affected just about every beech tree in the Maritime provinces and New England. And it is killing beech trees. And you can see here in this stand, like these trees are all dying or half dead in this stand. So you can see what the insect does. It basically, it causes a fungus, which then causes these cankers on the beech tree. This will very slowly kill the beech trees. The only good thing about this is that it is slow moving and it is a slow death. These beech trees should all look like this down here on the bottom. See that nice smooth gray bark? That's what the entire tree should look like. But they don't. And some are worse than others. I only have a few mature beech trees left on my property. Here's one example here. But just by looking at the bark, you can't even tell this is a beech tree. That's how bad it is. It's a nice old tree, but it's not going to last much longer, and I'll probably have to cut it down for firewood. This is a new growth. This is new beech tree, and right now you can see it doesn't have any cankers on it, but the chances of this beech tree growing to maturity are slim to none. Same with all this new growth of beech trees. The list of invasive insects here right now is actually quite surprising. Just do a quick Google search and you'll see a long list of invasive insects that are here and causing damage to our forest. One of the worst ones though right now we really have to keep an eye on is called the emerald ash borer, and it is a bad one. Its ground zero is in Michigan and surrounding states in Ontario, Canada, and it has been moving steadily eastward. It is a nasty, nasty insect. It is decimating ash trees. It's so far, they estimate it's killed millions and millions. No ash trees survive, and it kills them quickly. Once infected, ash trees only live for a few years, and they're dead. That's it. So it is bad, and it's moving east very quickly. The insect itself can fly up to 50 miles. So it's a fast-moving insect on its own. It's also transported with lumber and firewood and everything else. So, you know, it's almost impossible to stop its progress. Right now, it is on the, I know there's some quarantine areas on the northern Maine-New Brunswick border. They're trying to stop it. They're doing what they can, but I don't think you can stop it. And unless we can come up with something, unless people come up with something to stop this thing, you're going to see the end of ash trees within 10 years. And that's just the way it is. That's crazy. But that's the way it is, you know, today in a global world. And the world's getting smaller every day, and we end up with a lot of invasive species here, whether it's insects or fish or plants or whatever. And it's hard on our forests and on our ecosystem and our wildlife. You know, to think that, you know, in 10 years you could see the end of ash trees, and probably in 20 or 25 years there's not going to be many beech trees around either. They're just slowly dying off. And then what's next? I mean, what insect next is going to wreak havoc across our forest? So bottom line is, guys, I think the current health of our forest is really actually quite good. But I think there are some species that are in trouble. And I think that these invasive insects are something that we really have to watch. Because when insects like the emerald ash borer can devastate a single species, an entire species of tree, the ash tree, in just a few years, wow, I think that's crazy. So and it doesn't give us much time to do anything about it. But I'm still hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful that the forests are resilient, and you know, people are smart, and we can come up with ideas to combat these types of things. But really, only time will tell. All right, guys, that's my video for today. That's what I think the current state of our forest is, and Now you know what I think is the biggest threat we face. And definitely leave me some comments below, guys, wherever you are. Tell me what you think, or if you're in an area where you're having a heavy infestation of these insects. Let me know in the comments below, or just comment about anything. I love those comments, guys. Keep them coming. I appreciate you guys watching. And until next time, you guys take care, and we'll see you soon back here at the cabin.